Okay, so I started the German turn 2, and I got a reinforcement. He's placed here. I'm trying to make some attacks. There's some problems here. I got a couple of shifts against me if I make an attack here. I don't like the odds, but I feel like I have to launch these attacks. Now, let's see what that Russian card was, because I held it for a reason. Okay, so let's play before a German attack. I'll keep that face up because I'm going to use that. The Germans are expecting to have to use this backhanded blow to remove counter blow markers, but the Russians don't intend to do that. Facing my defense is a lot tougher than I remember this being in either of my advances. But okay. What I want to do is I want to launch this attack first. This one looks really important because I can end up cutting this unit off. I won't get an attack based on it because you can only attack each unit with one. You can only attack once with each unit, and you can only attack each unit once. Here I have 11, 13, 17. I've got 3 shift markers. Do I want them all? I think so. I think I want them all up there. So, what did I say here? 11, 17. That's only 3 to 1. I get a shift in my favor from the armor. That puts it to 4 to 1. Does he want to play this now? I think he's going to hold this to try to hit one of these armor units and try to hurt it. Okay, so what do we got? I said 4 to 1. The Germans get a 3 on the 4 to 1. That's a defender retreat. Against this, he's got nowhere to retreat, so he's hit. That's another victory point, and now I can advance. I'll try to push as far as I can. I want to get as much ground forward, even if it means leaving some bigger gaps in place. This gives me a zone of control around this guy that's pretty potent. None of these units can attack, though. But we'll try this. I've got 9, 13 to 4. That only gives me 3 to 1. I got 2 shifts against me, but drop that to 1 because of the blitz marker. So I'm at 2 to 1. 2 to 1's not a great attack odds, but here's the thing. The effects aren't terribly... The only thing that's bad for me potentially is an exchange. Let me look through my cards, make sure I don't have something that I can use here. I don't think I do. Most of those are to face that. So I'm at 2 to 1. A 4, that looks like a good result. That's a defender retreat. And again, the Russians are unable to retreat. Into the box they go. They take another one of these. Now here, I can't do the big kind of advance that I did. All I can do is advance into that hex because of the forest. Let's put another little flag here. Which is a pain. I would have liked to, be able to break through and cut around here, but I can't do that. The Russians are still holding their card. What do the Germans want to do? They want to do this attack or this one. In both cases, I don't get a shift. This stops advance. I don't get a shift. There's a defensive shift. It stops advance. These aren't great solutions for me. Let's do this. It's 3 to 1. I can cancel the shift with my blitz. I don't get my armor shift. So I'm just at 3 to 1 there. And the Russians are going to play their card. Both players roll a die. I'll use the white die for the Germans because the Russians are red, of course. And the Germans win, which means the Russian unit is destroyed. What does that do? No advances or retreats are allowed on this. I don't think that there's a combat. I think the Russians managed to hold this space, which is kind of cool. They stopped things by that situation. And then up here, well, here I only have 5. By the way, I should have little targets on all of these just to indicate to the Russians places I might attack. I don't have to do it in all of them. Here I've got 10, that's 3 to 1 with a shift against, which I'll cancel out with my blitz. So I've got a 3 to 1 attack on that forest hex. A 4 at 3 to 1 is a defender retreat, which I can do easily. And the Germans can only advance 1 hex because that's going to stop the advance. So we're seeing the Germans kind of slowed down more heavily than I expected, but there's a big gap here, and I got to start building some Russian units back. And my count, well, the Russians are probably going to build this. I held on to, probably foolishly, a card that allowed me to delay Russian production and kill a unit. I've got to have to play it this time, even if the Russians only get 1 card. There are going to be some additional Russian units on the board, though, so they'll be able to help fill in that gap. And that's one of the things. The Russians are just continually getting units. Well, the Germans managed to cancel 1 Russian recovery, but then they used their second card that they were kind of curious about, but they don't really want to use this for anything else, to prevent a destroyed unit from coming back. The Germans also played this sucker, and this will cost the Russians 1 point. They do not want to make attacks at this point. They're too weak. So that's a 4th event victory point for the Germans beyond these. And yeah, it's hard for me to play the cards in sequence. It's hard enough when I'm playing 2-player. I was constantly finding myself in both games I played forgetting to play key cards during the other player's turn or whatever. During my own turn I can usually remember. Anyway, the Russians are pulling back, trying to defend mainly in the north. You can see they left the entire south open, the way to Stalingrad. That was in order to build a unit and defend Sevastopol. They get a fortress in Sevastopol, and that's kind of useful, and they think they can hold Stalingrad. Remember, those 4 areas, or those 5 including the oil fields, if the Germans get those, get 3 of those 5, they win the game. And alternatively, losing oil fields or Moscow costs a card play. So the Russians really kind of want to defend those locations, but I don't know. It's kind of risky. So Sevastopol isn't that important, but I hate the idea of it falling without a fight, whereas losing some of these might be okay, because in the end I am going to lose these. The question comes down to things like Stalingrad. It comes down to losing stuff back here, getting cut off in Leningrad. I've seen Leningrad fall in too many games that I've played, in both games that I played. I feel like I've got to really concentrate in the north there and let the Germans come down in the south quite far and stop them at Stalingrad in the end. Alright, there was no rail action going or anything like that, so we're moving on to turn 3. Ruh-roh. I recounted things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cities back here, 12 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 17. 4 hits. 1 for the Soviet attack that wasn't undone. 17 and 4 is 21. This is unfortunately a sudden death turn. That's the game. And here I thought I was holding them off because I obviously couldn't have been moving the marker enough. That's it. And this is one of the things with the game. I would have liked to have played out a full scenario on here. I thought it was going actually fairly well for the Russians, because last time I played, I was ahead of this point. It's a tough slog. It really is. I mean, other than the Russians, so we could back up and try to do 3 Russian attacks, but you know, that's going to demolish them so much that I think it would be falling next turn. And I'm looking at the caving that occurred to try to get to a good defensive line back here, and that's giving quite a bit. I mean, even when I was back here, I don't know how I ended up missing the points, but yeah, you know, this is one of the things. Now I was looking, I drew a fickle weather card, and that ended up giving me clear weather here, which was going to help tremendously, which means I'm not facing mud, so I can charge forward at higher speeds. Here I've got a 3 movement point maximum for every unit with mud. Well, the mud didn't happen because of that random card, so that was going to allow faster expansion. I guess what it came to is I would have had to hold this space against, and that wouldn't be easy. Nothing's really trivial here. For the Russian turn, they would have had to make the attacks, and part of it is because I didn't notice that card until after I did the Russian turn. But the biggest thing is I didn't have the victory points. I wasn't keeping an eye on them. And a lot of times you're in that situation. I know when my wife and I were playing, we were in this position where, hey, you've got to do some really stupid things to prevent yourself from losing right away. This is a tough game to solo. With the having to pay attention to the cards, there's a lot of interactive cards in there. And focusing so hard on keeping that count on the victory points, it's a tough game to just play, to tell you the truth. And I'm going to hang it up here because even though I'm not giving that long, detailed view that I was hoping to give to it, even though I was hoping to be able to explore more, there's a really good chance that the game ends in this first turn. You know, last game I played, I don't remember just what happened, but essentially it was just continuously right on the edge of a victory. Not at this stage. Now, you know, I just keep counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's almost nothing. You really have to hold them somewhere more painful. I think my wife kept me out of here, but this was all open and really empty. All right, well, we'll hang it there, and I'll give a fairly short review of it, actually.